Hey, thanks for checking out another episode of Triple Play. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to support those that support us. We want to thank Brookes Bible College. Brookes Bible College is a Christ-centered Bible college here in the St. Louis area. If you are looking to grow in the Lord and get into ministry, or if you're a layperson just wanting to get to know God's Word better, consider taking classes at Brookes Bible College. Their goal is to get you in ministry with as little debt as possible and to give you a great education for the cost. And you'll be equipped to pastor, you'll be equipped to counsel, and you'll be equipped to teach God's word when you graduate. Guaranteed, promise, and you'll love it. Great professors, great staff and faculty, and just everybody there. You're going to love it if you consider Brookes Bible College. Just a little random fact, but the average church size in America is 60 to 70 people, and if you're graduating from college with $100,000 worth of debt or $75,000 worth of debt, it's going to be very hard to pastor a church that size unless they're independently wealthy. So, consider Brookes Bible College. It's a great alternative. Also, to go right along with that, per se, is the fact that you're a lay person and you want to get better educated. You don't want to spend $75,000 to do that either. So you're going into missions. You can't do missions work if you're carrying around a $50,000, $75,000 worth of college debt either. So those are all reasons to consider Brookes Bible College. We hope you'll consider, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Hey, thanks for checking out another episode of Triple Play. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And with that said, I am excited today. Our guest today is a good friend of mine. How long have we been friends, Jasper?
I knew you when you were a high schooler.
I know. It's been a long time. I'm an old guy now.
Well, I'm older because I wasn't a high schooler then.
So old enough, we're at least 30 years then.
Oh, yeah.
So 30 plus years. So I've known Jasper, and
you went to high school when you were like 7, right?
and that was good. And with that said, Jasper is with what's the name now?
Missouri Baptist Children's and Family Services.
Okay, I wanted to say it right because I grew up thinking home for some reason, because I think that's what it was for a long time, right?
Yeah, so. and we still go underneath that banner. It's just not the name that we were, especially the things that
Okay.
The children's home has changed a lot. I was even surprised when I started working there that I always thought of it as a residential facility, that there would be several group homes on the site, maybe 100 kids or something total. And the entire philosophy, foster care and child care, has changed to where we only have a handful of residents there or in any of our campuses. I work out of the one in Bridgeton because we really have felt like kind of the push, not only for us, but for everyone in foster care, is that those kids will benefit better, place them in a home with a family. And sometimes that can be a home that has 6 or 7 of those kids in it. But it could have several.
Right.
Or it's just a placement where there's one kid with a family, but the whole idea is to try and keep it as family can be processed. So
that's awesome. So I want to get into how you got there, but I also want to get a little bit of background on you. I think it'll be helpful for people, because I know a little bit of your story, but people who are watching may not know your story. Tell us a little bit, where did you grow up? Maybe a little bit of how you came to faith in Christ, and what kind of led you to this passion where you're at now? Because I know you've always been involved with students, and this is a natural fit, but those listening, if they don't know you, that they, it'd be good for them to kind of hear maybe a little bit of how your upbringing was and how you got to here. So,
well, I was born and raised in North St. Louis, the city. Kind of the Highway 70 in East Grand area. So it was pretty rough where I grew up. It was not very easy growing up there. My dad was a pastor of a very small church, and lived actually in an apartment above the church. all the way until I went to college. And so I was always surrounded by people that, and my parents really did a great job of instilling love for people. And so uh, I came to faith when I was about 10. And just one of those moments, I realized I was a sinner. I'd heard it all my life. I knew all the stories. And my mom just, that I'd been kind of off for a few weeks and asked me what was wrong. Broke down and sat down on her bed, and she led me to. Then, as I got older, uh, peer pressure kind of got to me some, and so through late middle school and all through high school, I wasn't totally out of a relationship with Christ, but I was not doing everything I should.
Not progressively pursuing that relationship.
Right. The group of friends that I had, we had the valedictorian the year before I graduated, salutatorian the year graduated, valedictorian after. So we were good kids, but we didn't do time. And so kind of went through a little bit of a crisis of faith after I got out of high school, had a year off, and God brought a couple of guys into my life that were working at my parents' church for them, and they had no idea spiritually. They just assumed, here, you're the pastor's kid, got to be where we are at least. And they just kind of drug me through that summer spiritually, just like on their coattails, along with Andy Tucker, who is a friend of ours. Her father pastored a neighboring church. So the four of us just kind of hung out that. And by the middle of the summer or so, I was like, well, one of these things is not like the I just really knew that I wasn't living like I should be. And so by the end of that summer, I had really started to grow pretty quickly and felt like I was going to jump into that right away. Took me about another 9 months, but that was where then moved on into going to college at Missouri Baptist and pursuing a religion major at that point and not knowing what I wanted to do. In fact, because my church was so small, and I hadn't had a lot of experience with churches of its size, I assumed I either had to be a senior pastor or missionary. I didn't think there was anything else you could do. And so I was going in the foreign missionary route. I'd grown up in a senior pastor's house. That's not what I want. And then as time went by, God really started to play students on me. But for those of you that can see me, I don't look like the average youth pastor. And so I kept telling myself, I'm not terribly athletic. I'm way not cool and hip. I'm just kind of like the dorky guy. So I certainly can't be a youth pastor. They're the coolest. And God just kept shutting doors and opening doors. So he's like, I use the nerdy, not athletic guys. And so don't tell me what you should do. And so that led to about 25 years. And just, I always thought I would retire out of it. I used to tell people that I would be the 92-year-old in the front row of a Lecrae concert with my walker over my head, popping it up and down to the beat. But God had other plans. And I eventually went into a discipleship and administration role, but that included the umbrella of mission. And God just killed me. Missions became such a desire of my heart, and led trips that church 6 or 7 times to Ghana, Africa. And then I was offered a position in Naperville, Illinois as missions pastor. It was the dream job. I had 10 partners all throughout the world. I got to travel, take teams, see the way God works lives while they're there. And but then our family made some decisions and we wound up in Florida. We've just been back for a little while. And the position with Missouri Baptist Children's Home came up when I started looking for. I just kept opening that door, and I really felt like it would be a good fit. But I'm kind of one of those guys that God really has to hit me upside the head because I'm always sure blessings are for other people and not for me. And so I'm like, no, that's not going to work. But it did, and I'm really happy about it. Great fit. It's an incredible ministry all throughout the state. And I'm kind of at the mothership in Bridgeton. We're the original campus, and it's just it's been really good.
That's awesome. So now, so you're there. Tell us what do they do? I mean, obviously, as you said, the ministry there has changed. There's a different dynamic, and as you were sharing with me, it's really the way I looked at it is it's para-community, para-church type of organization. So explain to me, and when I mean pair, I mean like literally pairing up. Like we're not asking for you guys to give us money so we can go do the ministry. We want to empower you guys to do the ministry and walk alongside with you guys and help you um, plant inside the community to where your church is at. So I mean that's kind of what I gathered out of our lunch when we were talking. And so, but explain how that operates because I think that's it. I found it fascinating. So
Well, like I said, things had really changed, and I think most people who were ever familiar with Missouri Baptist Children's Home has that set up in mind. But really, a lot of what is happening now is Christian social work that have cases similar to what children's working with children that are vulnerable. Some reason they're either going to be pulled from their home or they're being united with their family, but they're in crisis in that time. And so uh, just continue to get more and more cases. State of Missouri are a licensed agent for them. And I think what I heard the other day was that very shortly we're going to get like close to 200 more that are going to be our system. So we're hiring a lot of social work that try and keep up with it. But so it's really turned the tide to be much more about family than just child. Now it's always child centered about the kid, but now it is so much more trying to help family.
gotcha. That's awesome. And you were explaining how does that how does that process go about with the church or how does that kind of work? So
Well, the particular division I'm in, I'm a church. Uh, I work with the churches solely. That's really what my job is. And I am called a church engagement specialist, and so we are part of a mostly nationwide, 33 states. There's an organization called CarePortal
okay,
that
what are
we're
they?
part of. Well, CarePortal is a care sharing technology that drives action for local families in crisis. So
Okay.
that sounds like a lot, but I can break it down for you.
All right.
Uh, so what CarePortal does is it links children's services, so things like Missouri Children's Division, Missouri Baptist Children's Home, with local churches provide need for the most. And again, it's always child centered, so we meet child centered. But just for an example, right now, the last statistics that came out said there were 1,200, uh, 12,790 numbers are not my thing.
That's right.
Children in foster care in the state of Missouri.
Okay.
and that's actually down from a height of over 14,000.
Wow.
So it's gone down, and that's good. That's the way we want to continue that pace. But a group came together several years ago and just said, "How can the church do a better job with widows and focusing in on children so it could be very streamlined?" They created a network that is set up where if you were a children's division and you were in a home eating with a family, and let's say you were the grandma, 12-year-old boy, the parents are in a time that they can't really take care of him. The grandma stepped up. She said, "No, he's fine. I'm going to help him." And as the social worker is talking with that grandma, she might bring up the fact that she's lived in that house by herself forever. And so she has space, but she might not have a bed, dresser, and that. So then that social worker would be able to CarePortal, put that need in, and then that need immediately is sent out to churches local area. Any of those churches can see that and say, "Hey, didn't meet that need. Have that," and or we could purchase it and take it, and then uh, the church will then deliver those things and try and start a relationship with the people, so there is some more support for the family, because that's really such a part of why kids wind up in foster care is parents just don't have a village. And so the goal long term with the church is to really be establish that relationship so that
That's fantastic. I love that. So, so basically, a need is presented with this caseworker, and that caseworker is able to then project that need if churches are signed up. So, if you're listening in and you're part of a church, just as key in on this, you have the ability to get to partner up with this. And if it's something that your church can partner up and take care of it at that time, what a great opportunity to serve your community, possibly gain a member down the road. Who's this? You don't know, but I mean, if you have an opportunity to witness these people, to love on them, uh, be tangible. Obviously, you want to meet the need first. Even Jesus acknowledged that we need to. We they're hungry. We need to feed them before we can talk to them about the gospel, right?
right.
You know, and so taking care of the need and then being able to share Christ or love on that family and the community. What a great picture of Christ.
And one of the great things that I find with it is for churches, there's no cost in that. It's 100% free that are meet. And I think a lot of times when you have such a great structure like what CarePortal is, there's always money that has to be spent just to be
Right.
to license something. CarePortal doesn't work that way. They are a nonprofit and are dedicated helping churches, and so the church never will have to pay program help the
That is awesome. So if you're listening and this is something that interests you, take a look in our show notes. I'll have links in there so you can reach out to Jasper and see about your church or get plugged in with somebody that's part of the organization so we can get your church on board because there's no cost, so there's really no reason why you're not involved. If you're a pastor or on staff at a church, there's no reason why you shouldn't consider getting your church involved because if you have the ability to meet the need, why wouldn't you? Isn't that exactly what the church is there in the community to do, to help meet the needs of the community?
absolutely. And that's what having such a background in being on church staffs, when I first heard of this, I'm like, what church wouldn't want to do? And I guess there were probably some out there, but I see no downside for the church because you aren't required to meet a certain number of needs every month. You're not required to uh, meet any kind of quotas. It's really where the Spirit leads. Yes, this one is one I think we can take care of, so we will. But there's nothing where I would come back as a church engagement. You didn't do 5 last month, so we're kicking you out. It really is based on what that church feels they can do.
Yeah, I love it. Loving it. What their community what they can do for the community. I love it. Um, so so there's that aspect. Is there anything else that's involved in your bandwidth? And I say that because I know that that's a part of it, but I'm sure there's a little more back there too, right?
Right. There are different things. One of the things that my department does is also uh, child uh, policies for churches, child protection policy. Come in and we have a program that we can train your congregation in. And so we will go churches that request us again, no cost, and come in, take them really deep training called Steward Children. And one of the best I've seen, where it really kind of breaks down that, we're living in such a different world
Yes.
we used to be. And so, but the church oftentimes still in the old world. And so you'll find things as simple as a church needs to vet all of their volunteers. But what about Aunt Myrtle, been working in the nursery for 60 years? Everybody knows Aunt Myrtle. But we can come in and show you why even Aunt Myrtle, they have the background checks and work there. Nothing against Aunt Myrtle. We all know her and love her, but it just finds ways to keep safe.
Yeah.
And then Missouri Baptist Children's Home still does a huge amount of foster. That is still the heartbeat of the organization. What I do only enhances and helps those situations. There's just such a need. It's constantly there. State of Missouri. We actually have campuses. Springfield, Juilliard, one in Bridgeton, another. So we're kind of all over the state. But then the need is so great. And CarePortal actually was a part of the executive production for the movie Sound of Hope. Probably some of your listeners have been aware of that movie. When I talked about it, you saw it. It was just about how a church raised up to the needs of foster care community in Texas. And one of the great things that came out of that story itself was that church ignited such a movement in that area of Texas that there came a point that 100% children that needed foster home. That's a precedent. And so that's still a really big emphasis for us. How can we help the kids? Again, the goal on our hearts always would be. And one of the things that has come up as I've talked with some pastors, depending on where your church may be located, you may think there isn't any. And I think we kind of have this false idea that every kid that's in foster care somehow abused came from this horrible environment. But a lot of times, especially in wealthier areas, what we're seeing is a lot of substance, and parents can't take care of them because of that. And so the system is set up in a really great way of saying, have these issues, have this amount of time to try and get it fixed. And if you show us you're working towards that, we don't want to break up your family. But we need loving, especially, I believe, Christian in the interim, that bridge that will love on those and will show them that somebody cares.
I love that.
Well, and I have experience of this from the other side. My son just turned 18 and actually went through the process with Missouri Children's. Thought we were going to be foster parents, and we always do adopt. And so we started a program with them, and that's kind of a great story as well. So we are in classes. You go through about 10 weeks, 8 weeks just to be foster parent, a couple extra weeks if you're going to adopt. And we had heard about towards the end of those adoption times a little boy who had just been born that was probably coming up and would probably have the parents' rights terminated very quickly because of past things. And we just don't get a baby. That's not normally the way it works. It happens. So I don't want to discourage anybody out there that might want to be a foster parent to a baby. It does happen, but it's rare. And so we knew him. We knew what his name was. And at that point, I was working. I was teaching school and being a youth pastor at the same time. Season, but I was living in South County. So I had about an hour drive, work every day, past the Mississippi 3 times on the way to work. And I just spent that time really praying for this kid. I often say it was Hannah's prayer of, God, if you give him to me, it's yours. You have him and raise him in a way that will serve you. And so several months go by because the process can take some time sometimes. And they get a call from our social worker saying, we're going to have what is called an adoption staffing, where the people who are charged with taking care of the child, social worker, guardian, like that, come together to decide which home would be best for the child. And so she said, we're doing that on such and such day, and I'll let you know what happens. That day comes and goes, and we don't hear anything. And so I ended up the next day calling the social worker. I'm like, I know this could be bad news, but I just need to know what's going on. Like, oh no, that's today. I told you the wrong day. So that's great. Everybody makes mistakes. No shout out badly to the social worker, just the way it was. And so the next day, I remember I was in a Walgreens in an aisle, and the social worker called us, and she said, "I'm sorry, we're getting another home." Devastating. Just we were already so all in with this child, and at that point, he would, and so we kind of gone through a pregnancy that time period. Knew this child was there. We were anticipating him, praying for him, and so it was hard. And I remember that night. This will date it, but I already told you he's 18. But Facing the Giants movie had just come out.
Oh, there you go.
And I had been very moved by it, and to the point that I drug people to it. I had nights in youth group that we watched the movie, and everybody knew it was kind of my thing at that point. I kind of get obsessed with things from time to time, and that was it. And in that movie, Grant Taylor says, we're going to praise God when we. And he's talking about football, but it's really the allegory for life throughout the whole. And so I looked at my wife, Kendra, and I just said, telling people to do this. And we stopped right there and prayed and said, God, know what's going on. Praise you. And we didn't have any kids at that point. And so then that turned into a, hey, we can still go to movies at midnight if we want. There's some good things about not having kids. And so a couple of weeks go by, and I go to check my email at school, and there is a note from the social worker saying the other family has backed out. And they'll get all choked up about it. I remember calling Kendra and being like, we do, right? We still want this. And so then God just provided this child that we had been praying for, but we had something to learn in the middle of that you could have mountaintops and you could have valleys, but God's the same God in both places. And we just trusted that he would, if we weren't supposed to have a child, we wouldn't have one. If it was another child, that was fine. He was bringing that. That was all part of his plan. And then kind of the reward to us for that faithfulness was, no, this is the kid you're already in love with that you haven't even seen yet. And came into our home within a couple of weeks and
Never left.
Never left. He just eats a lot more now than he did then. We were talking, Josh is known us through that whole period. And we were talking about how big he's gotten because he was a preemie. So he was, when he came to live with us, even at 9 months, he was really small, wasn't sitting up and things like that, at all. Pass him around and nothing. Now he's built like a Mack truck, and
I was gonna say he looks like a football player. If I
he
looked
is
at
a
him,
football player. Yeah,
I looked at him. I thought football player.
yeah. And he and Dad don't wrestle anymore because there's no way I can not only not win, I can't even keep up. So, but it's just that's where some of my passion for care really is, that I know his backstory. That's his story to tell. But I I think about what would have happened had I stepped up and take a vulnerable child, and the way God is blessed. It's my best friend. We love each other. He's been nothing but a blessing, only in ways that children sometimes aren't. But it's been great, and to think that uh, there are so many, looking at almost 1,300 or 13,000 kids, 30 that are in the place where Jackson was, and going to step up. Statistics that say that if one family in every church in America, evangelical, would take in one foster child, and that's pretty sobering. What is this that to help?
That's a great question. That is a great question, and I love that. If they do step up, the answer's there. I mean, we as the church body step up. If every church took in one foster care child, wouldn't have a foster care system.
And I totally understand everybody can't,
For sure.
and there are always things, and that's one of the things that's great about CarePort, is that it still provides the church a way to help these families, and it's still going to make a very big difference in life, spiritually and physically. And one of the parts of our program that I get excited about is we have what we call community champion. And this is an avenue that businesses can partner with. And right now we have several have a handful of churches in the city that are part of CarePortal. But most churches in St. Louis City are smaller and don't feel like they have the resources. They want to help, but they just think if this person needs bed, that's $100. We don't really have that there too, but they want to. And so CarePortal has created the community champions, where a business can come in and sponsor a church. We've got our business stuff to do. We have a heart for the vulnerable people in the community. If we can fund that, and you can be the feet that gets that to, then we want to be a part of that. So there is a way for businesses to come into this family with the child at the center, and they could say, we know that we're going to give our money to a nonprofit. This is something that is very worthy of it. But we don't really have the time to do all the little parts. So why don't we partner with a small church, the city or the county? And we will say, if there's a need, let us know. We'll meet the financial need. You'll take it there. And so we've seen a lot of success across the country with that, with smaller churches that are able to handle the ministry side, where they would never been able to do that without.
I love that too. The business owners that are listening, this is a great opportunity for them to partner up with the ministry too, of helping the community or neighboring community, and doing it tangibly, knowing that being overseen the right way, and it's more than just writing a check. You're actually able to partner up. I'd imagine too that if they wanted to, they could even meet that church.
Oh yeah,
So,
sure. And everything is very vetted. The needs go through a process. The agencies generally have an agency employee that finds a need, that need has to go through a supervisor to make sure it's everything it needs. Then it comes to us, and we're able to put that out to the churches. And so there's not any real risk involved. Not the churches that a community champion would partner with cannot spend that money on CarePortal.
Perfect.
So it's not it, and that's a little bit more of a complicated way. Want to know? I can tell you, but just know that if you're a community champion, they will know I have a heart for foster care, and so I want this used for that. They can't take that and use it totally handled by handles all of the tax benefit tax form from CarePortal. So it's very well.
That's awesome. So at the end of the day, a company wants to partner up, they can be at peace that they can A, get in touch with the church that they're sponsoring, and B, that the need is legit and that the money's being spent just for that need. So that's a I mean, I don't know, most businesses that's kind of what you want to know, especially if you're kind of smaller and you're like maybe, hey, I can't do a lot, but I can help out with something like that, maybe $1,000 a year. We could commit at $1,200 a year. We could do $100 a month on something like that to help take care of needs in the community and help a church in the local community be able to take care of those needs. And having that midman make sure everything's vetted and taken care of, such an important thing. I love it.
It's
So,
just a great way for businesses to be involved in the really have a presence and just there. Right, because we all know if the community is growing and is healthy, businesses are going to do better, going to be drawn to those areas. So again, like where it's kind of like with the churches, I don't see where there's any question of why say I don't want to do it. It's just a
exactly. If
win-win.
you're doing already, kind of any type of nonprofit giving, be a great way to do it. So that's awesome. And you could probably even partner with your own church if you wanted to make sure your own
Right.
church was able to have that, but you want to earmark it towards foster care. That'd be another way to do that. You could sponsor your own church, even if they don't necessarily need it, but you wanted to give it to that need for your local church that you're involved in.
Yeah. They're part of CarePortal.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We covered a lot, Jasper. Is there anything else that you do underneath that spectrum of stuff that you're responsible for here?
Probably, but
We hit the highlights, right?
Right.
The main things.
I didn't know if I needed to tell embarrassing stories about you at 16.
You're welcome to, but I was quite the guy back then. So I don't know if that's changed a whole lot. My wife, my kids say that I embarrass them all the time because I'm still that goofy guy, kind of awkward.
That's
So
what we love.
there you go. Well, thank you for swinging in, and for everybody listening, check it out. We're going to have the link in the show notes. You'll be seeing it on the screen, and prayerfully consider partnering up and teaming up with this great opportunity, this great ministry, this great parachurch ministry. I guess is how I kind of look at it, but a great opportunity to help the least of these kids that need help, families that need help. I love that you guys are family centric, kid centric first, but family centric next. And so those things are, I think, a key element to being Christ centered, right?
Right, absolutely.
So, all right, guys. Well, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys next episode. Thanks, Jasper, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, catch ya. Hey, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Triple Play. Don't forget, as always, to like and subscribe and share. Get the word out. We appreciate that. Also, don't forget to support those that support us, like Resource One and Andy McCallum's team. If you have any financial planning needs, give those guys a call, 636-458-1798, no matter where you're at in life. If you're going through divorces, we've had episodes on here. They've got people who can help you prepare for that. If you're retiring, they got people who help you for that. And if you're young and just trying to get started, trying to figure out what's the best first step, they've got people for that. So consider Resource One, Andy McCallum and his team there, 636-458-1798. Also, Chris with CS Design, they do our intro or outro. They do the logos. They're wizards at graphic design. They're wizards with all things, I call it technology related or social media related. Give those guys a call. Chris is great, 573-436-3717. And lastly, don't forget, if you have any insurance needs, give Jeff Earhart at 314-821-5333 a call, and those guys would be glad to help you at State Farm with your insurance needs. So State Farm, Jeff Earhart's agency, 314-821-5333, or Jeff. And we appreciate your support as always, and we'll catch you next episode.
You're safe.